Jamal's day begins in the harsh reality of Los Angeles' streets. His makeshift shelter, a collection of cardboard boxes and tattered tarps, offers little protection from the city's constant noise. As the first rays of sunlight penetrate his shelter, Jamal's eyes snap open, his body tense and alert. The sounds of car horns and sirens blend with the echoes of explosions in his mind. For a moment, Jamal is back in the war zone. The smell of gunpowder fills his nostrils, and he can almost feel the weight of his rifle in his hands. His heart races as adrenaline courses through his veins. It takes several deep breaths for Jamal to realize he's not in danger, at least not from enemy fire. The real threat now is the daily struggle for survival on the unforgiving streets of Los Angeles. As Jamal emerges from his shelter, he observes the bustling city around him. People rush by, barely noticing the homeless veteran in their midst. Jamal's eyes scan his surroundings, a habit ingrained from his military days. He notices a young boy, Alex, walking down the street with a smartphone in hand. Alex is filming himself, his voice filled with excitement as he describes the sights and sounds of Los Angeles to his online audience. He talks about the famous Hollywood sign in the distance and the palm trees lining the streets. His enthusiasm is palpable, but it's clear he's oblivious to the harsher realities of city life. As Alex continues his impromptu tour, Jamal watches him with a mixture of curiosity and concern. The boy's naivety is both refreshing and worrying to the battle-hardened veteran. Jamal knows all too well how quickly innocence can be shattered in this world. The scene shifts as Alex leaves his school later that day. His earlier excitement has faded, replaced by nervousness as he notices a group of older boys approaching. Jamal, who has been wandering the neighborhood, spots the confrontation from a distance. He sees the fear in Alex's eyes as the group surrounds him, their intentions clearly hostile. Jamal feels a familiar tension building in his muscles. His instincts, honed by years of combat, tell him to intervene. But fear holds him back, not fear of the bullies, but fear of his own capacity for violence. He struggled to control his reactions since returning from the war, and the thought of lashing out terrifies him. As the situation escalates, Jamal finds himself torn between his desire to help and his fear of losing control. He watches, conflicted, as Alex tries to talk his way out of the confrontation. The bullies' taunts grow louder, and Jamal sees one of them shove Alex roughly. In this moment, Jamal must decide whether to remain a bystander or risk involvement. The weight of his past experiences presses down on him, but so does the memory of the oath he once took to protect others. As tension mounts, Jamal's next action will set the course for both his and Alex's futures. The confrontation between Alex and his aggressors reaches a tipping point. One of the bullies grabs Alex's backpack, while another shoves him hard against a wall. The fear in Alex's eyes is palpable, and his pleas for them to stop fall on deaf ears. It's at this moment that Jamal's internal struggle reaches its conclusion. In a swift motion, Jamal emerges from his position of observation and strides purposefully towards the group. His presence alone is imposing, years of military training evident in his posture and determined gaze. As he approaches, the bullies turn their attention from Alex to this new, unexpected threat. Jamal's voice, rough from disuse, cuts through the air with authority. "That's enough," he states firmly, positioning himself between Alex and his tormentors. The bullies, caught off guard by this intervention, hesitate. Jamal stands his ground, his eyes locked on the group's apparent leader. For a tense moment, it seems the situation could escalate further. But Jamal's unwavering stance and the intensity of his gaze begin to erode the bullies' confidence. They exchange uncertain glances, their bravado faltering in the face of this unexpected challenge. Sensing their wavering resolve, Jamal takes a step forward. "Walk away," he commands, his tone leaving no room for argument. The bullies, realizing they've lost their advantage, begin to back off. With a few muttered threats and glares, they retreat, leaving Alex stunned but unharmed. As the danger passes, Jamal feels the adrenaline ebb from his system. He turns to Alex, who looks up at him with a mixture of gratitude and awe. "You okay, kid?" Jamal asks, his voice softening slightly. Alex nods, still catching his breath. "Yeah, I'm..." I'm okay. Thank you, he manages to say. That was amazing. Who are you? Jamal shifts uncomfortably and used to gratitude or attention. Nobody important, he mumbles, already regretting his involvement. But Alex persists, his curiosity piqued by this mysterious savior. Are you a soldier? Alex asks, noticing Jamal's military bearing. You moved like one of those action movie heroes. Jamal's expression tightens at the mention of his past. He corrects tersely. Not anymore. Alex's eyes widen with understanding. Oh, you're a veteran? My dad talks about how we need to do more for veterans. Do you live around here? I've never seen you before. Each question hits Jamal like a physical blow, reminding him of the life he's lost and the reality he now faces. The mention of Alex's father stirs painful memories of his own son, lost to the very war that haunts Jamal's dreams. Look, kid, Jamal says, his tone gruff but not unkind. You should be more careful. This city isn't always friendly. With that, Jamal turns to leave, uncomfortable with the connection that seems to be forming. Alex calls out after him, Wait, I didn't even get your name. But Jamal is already walking away, his long strides carrying him quickly down the street. He can feel Alex's eyes on his back, and it takes all his willpower not to look back. The interaction has stirred something in Jamal, a mix of protectiveness and pain that he's not ready to confront. As he disappears around a corner, Jamal tries to push the encounter from his mind. But Alex's grateful face lingers in his thoughts, a reminder of the person he once was and the man he could be again. In the days following his encounter with Jamal, Alex can't shake the impact of the experience. Inspired by the veteran's bravery and troubled by his apparent homelessness, Alex decides to take action. He sits at his desk, phone in hand, and begins to record a video for his social media accounts. Hey everyone, Alex begins, his voice filled with newfound purpose. Today, I want to talk about something important. We've got heroes living on our streets, and it's time we did something about it. He goes on to recount his encounter with Jamal, careful not to identify him specifically, but painting a vivid picture of a veteran in need. Alex titles his campaign Voces Silenciadas, or Silenced Voices in English, aiming to shed light on the often overlooked struggles of homeless veterans. He encourages his followers to share their own stories and experiences with veterans, hoping to create a groundswell of support. Meanwhile, Jamal continues his daily routine, unaware of the ripples his actions have created. He passes by a local cafe, his eyes drawn to a colorful poster in the window. It's promoting Alex's campaign, featuring silhouettes of soldiers and civilians standing together. Jamal pauses, studying the image with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The cafe owner, noticing Jamal's interest, steps outside. Powerful stuff, isn't it? He comments. Some local kid started this campaign. Says he was inspired by a homeless vet who helped him out. Jamal nods noncommittally, but inside, he feels a spark of something he hasn't experienced in a long time. A sense of recognition and potential purpose. Back at school, Alex faces mixed reactions to his new initiative. Many of his classmates are supportive, impressed by his sudden passion for social issues. However, not everyone is on board. Ryan, a known troublemaker, confronts Alex in the hallway. What's this hero worship all about, Alex? Ryan sneers, gesturing to the Voces Silenciadas flyer in Alex's hand. You think some bum off the street is going to change anything? Alex stands his ground, his voice steady as he responds. That bum saved me from getting beaten up, Ryan. And he's not the only vet out there who needs our help. Ryan scoffs. Whatever, man. You're wasting your time. Nobody cares about a bunch of crazy old soldiers. Alex feels his anger rising but manages to keep his cool. You're wrong, Ryan. People do care. They just need to know what's happening. And I'm going to make sure they find out. As Ryan walks away with a dismissive wave, Alex notices a small crowd of students has gathered, listening to their exchange. Some nod in agreement with Alex, while others look thoughtful. Alex realizes that every conversation, even the difficult ones, is an opportunity to spread awareness. That evening, Alex reviews the comments on his latest video. The response is growing, with more people sharing stories of veterans they know or encounters they've had. Alex feels a sense of momentum building. He glances at the Voces Silenciadas poster on his wall, thinking of Jamal and wondering where he is now. Unbeknownst to Alex, his campaign is slowly making its way through the community, reaching eyes and ears he never expected. The seeds of change have been planted, and the story of one homeless veteran's act of kindness is about to blossom into something much larger. As Alex's campaign gains traction, Jamal's life takes an unexpected turn. While rummaging through a dumpster for food, he hears a familiar voice. "Jamal? Is that you, brother?" Turning around, Jamal comes face to face with Mike, a fellow veteran he served with years ago. Mike's appearance mirrors Jamal's: worn clothes, unkempt beard, and eyes that have seen too much. The two men embrace, a moment of connection in their shared struggle. "Never thought I'd find you here, Mike," Jamal says, his voice a mix of surprise and concern. As they walk together, Mike and Jamal share their stories of life after service. Both men have battled PTSD, struggled to find work, and eventually ended up on the streets. Their conversation is punctuated by nods of understanding and grim chuckles at the absurdity of their situation. "You know," Mike says, pausing near a park bench, "I've been thinking about starting a support group, just for vets like us. No shrinks, no bureaucrats, just guys who've been there, you know?" Jamal considers the idea. He's avoided connections since returning home, but something about Mike's proposal resonates with him. "Might not be a bad idea," he admits. "Lord knows we could use the support." Over the next few days, Jamal and Mike spread the word among the homeless veteran community. They find a sympathetic church willing to let them use a small room for meetings. Word travels fast, and soon they have a core group of veterans interested in attending. Meanwhile, Alex's Voces Silenciadas campaign continues to grow. He's been researching veteran support initiatives and stumbles upon information about Mike and Jamal's group. Excited by the grassroots nature of their effort, Alex reaches out and asks if he can attend a meeting with some of his young supporters. The first meeting is tense. The veterans, including Jamal, are wary of the young faces in the room. Alex, nervous but determined, explains his campaign and why he wants to help. "We're here to listen and learn," he says. "Your stories need to be heard." As the veterans begin to share their experiences, the atmosphere in the room shifts. The young people listen intently, their faces a mix of shock, sadness, and growing understanding. One veteran, a woman named Sarah, talks about the challenges of being a female soldier and the struggles she faced upon returning home. Jamal, who has remained quiet for most of the meeting, finally speaks up. His voice is low and measured as he recounts a particularly harrowing mission. As he speaks, the room falls silent, hanging on his every word. When he mentions losing his son in the war, his voice cracks slightly. The raw emotion in Jamal's story hits everyone hard. Alex, fighting back tears, stands up and thanks Jamal for sharing. "This is why we need to do more," he says, addressing the room. "These stories, your experiences, they change everything." As the meeting winds down, there's a palpable sense of connection in the room. Veterans who entered as strangers are now exchanging contact information and words of support. The young people, including Alex, leave with a newfound perspective and determination to make a difference. Jamal, watching everyone file out, feels a mix of emotions. The weight of sharing his story is heavy, but there's also a glimmer of something he hasn't felt in a long time: hope. Alex's Voces Silenciadas campaign begins to gain significant traction in the local media. A popular radio show picks up the story, interviewing Alex about his inspiration and goals. The young activist speaks passionately about the veterans he's met and the challenges they face, his words resonating with listeners across the city. As a result of the increased attention, community support for the veterans starts to pour in. Local businesses offer job opportunities, while individuals contribute donations of clothes, food, and toiletries. The church hosting the veterans' meetings becomes a hub of activity, with volunteers sorting through the influx of supplies. Jamal, initially hesitant about the growing spotlight, finds himself thrust into the role of spokesperson for the group. A local news station requests an interview, and despite his reservations, Jamal agrees. On camera, he speaks candidly about his experiences, his voice steady but his eyes revealing the depth of his struggles. The The interview strikes a chord with viewers. Jamal's stoic demeanor and honest words paint a vivid picture of the challenges veterans face. As the segment airs, social media buzzes with reactions, and the campaign's visibility skyrockets. With his newfound platform, Jamal begins to feel a sense of purpose he hasn't experienced since leaving the military. He starts to open up more during group meetings, sharing not just his hardships but also strategies for coping and moving forward. As Jamal becomes more involved in the campaign, his friendship with Alex deepens. The unlikely pair often finds themselves discussing ideas for expanding their efforts. Alex is continually impressed by Jamal's insights and resilience, while Jamal finds Alex's enthusiasm and optimism refreshing. One afternoon, as they're brainstorming ideas for a fundraiser, Alex hesitates before asking, "Jamal, I know it's not much, but would you like to come to my birthday party next week? It's just a small thing with family and close friends, but, well, you're kind of both now." Jamal is taken aback by the invitation. It's been years since he's been to any kind of celebration, let alone a family gathering. He considers declining, but the hopeful look on Alex's face makes him reconsider. "Sure, kid," he says finally. "I'd be honored." The day of the party arrives, and Jamal finds himself standing nervously outside Alex's home. He's wearing clean clothes donated through the campaign and holding a small, wrapped gift, a journal he thought Alex might use for his activism work. As Alex opens the door, his face lights up. "Jamal, you made it." He ushers the veteran inside, where Jamal is greeted warmly by Alex's family and friends. There's an initial awkwardness as people aren't quite sure how to interact with him, but Alex's easy manner helps break the ice. Throughout the evening, Jamal finds himself relaxing. He shares stories about his military service that don't involve combat, making the younger guests laugh with tales of barracks pranks and bizarre training exercises. Alex's parents thank him sincerely for looking out for their son, and Jamal feels a warmth he hasn't experienced in years. As the party winds down, Jamal realizes he's smiling, really smiling, for the first time in as long as he can remember. Looking around at the faces of Alex and his family, Jamal feels something he thought he'd lost forever: a sense of belonging. A few weeks after Alex's birthday party, Jamal decides to visit the local veterans shelter. He's been encouraging other homeless vets to seek help there, and he wants to see the conditions for himself. As he walks through the facility, he notices a storage room with boxes piled high. Curious, Jamal asks a volunteer about the boxes. "Oh, those are personal effects left behind by veterans who've passed through here," the volunteer explains. "Some moved on, others, well, they didn't make it." With permission, Jamal begins to sift through the boxes. Each one is a time capsule of a veteran's life. Dog tags, old photos, letters from home, and various military mementos. The weight of these abandoned lives hits Jamal hard. One box contains a carefully folded flag, the kind presented at military funerals. Another holds a collection of medals, their ribbons faded but still proud. Jamal's hands shake as he handles these items, each one a testament to sacrifice and service. As he continues to explore, an idea forms in Jamal's mind. These items shouldn't be hidden away in a storage room. They deserve to be seen, to tell the stories of the men and women who owned them. Jamal approaches the shelter's director with a proposal: an exhibition of these artifacts, open to the public. "People need to see this," Jamal argues. "They need to understand what we've been through, what we've left behind." The director is hesitant at first, citing privacy concerns, but Jamal's passion wins him over. They agree to move forward with the exhibition, with Jamal taking the lead on organizing it. Over the next few weeks, Jamal throws himself into the project. He carefully selects items for display, writing small descriptions for each one. Alex and other young volunteers help with the logistics, setting up display cases and creating promotional materials. The day of the exhibition arrives, and Jamal is a bundle of nerves. As people start to file in, he watches their reactions closely. Many are moved to tears as they examine the personal effects. Veterans in attendance share stories sparked by the items they see, creating an impromptu oral history session. The exhibition is a success, drawing attention from local media and community leaders. People leave with a newfound appreciation for the sacrifices made by veterans and the challenges they face upon returning home. However, As the last visitors depart, Jamal feels a familiar unease creeping in. The success is gratifying, but it's also brought up painful memories he's tried to suppress. He's reminded of his own losses, the comrades who didn't make it home, and the life he left behind. His introspection is interrupted by the arrival of a man he doesn't recognize. The man introduces himself as Sergeant Roberts, explaining that he served with Jamal years ago. "I heard about this exhibition and had to come see for myself," Roberts says. "We need to talk, Jamal, about what happened on our last mission." Jamal feels a chill run down his spine. The past he's been trying to outrun has finally caught up with him, threatening to unravel everything he's built. The next group meeting for veterans starts on a somber note. As the participants settle in, one of the newer members, a young veteran named Tom, speaks up. His voice is shaky, and his eyes are fixed on the floor. I don't think I can do this anymore," he says. "Everything feels pointless. I've been thinking about ending it all." The room falls silent. Jamal, who has been facilitating the meeting, feels a knot form in his stomach. He's all too familiar with the darkness Tom is describing. Looking around, he sees the same recognition in the eyes of the other veterans. Alex, who has been attending meetings regularly, looks shocked. He's heard about the high suicide rates among veterans, but facing it in person is entirely different. He watches Jamal, wondering how he'll handle this situation. Jamal takes a deep breath before speaking. "Tom, I want you to know that you're not alone in feeling this way," he says, his voice steady but filled with empathy. "Many of us here, myself included, have been in that dark place." As Jamal continues, he shares his own struggles with suicidal thoughts after returning from war. He talks about the guilt he carries for surviving when others didn't, and the difficulty of adjusting to civilian life. His honesty encourages others to open up, and soon the room is filled with stories of pain, resilience, and hope. Throughout the meeting, Jamal can't shake a feeling of guilt. He remembers the times he couldn't save his fellow soldiers, the faces of those lost in battle. Tom's confession has brought these memories flooding back, and Jamal wonders if he's doing enough to help his fellow veterans. After the meeting, Jamal approaches Tom and gives him information about crisis hotlines and additional support services. He also makes sure Tom has contact numbers for several group members who volunteer to be on call for emergencies. Meanwhile, Alex is profoundly affected by what he's witnessed. He realizes that his campaign, while well-intentioned, has only scratched the surface of the issues veterans face. Determined to do more, he begins researching mental health resources for veterans. In the days that follow, Alex becomes a vocal advocate for increased mental health support for veterans. He uses his social media platform to share information about PTSD, depression, and suicide prevention. He organizes a series of online discussions, inviting mental health professionals to speak about the unique challenges veterans face. Jamal, seeing Alex's efforts, feels a mix of pride and concern. He's impressed by the young man's dedication but worries about the emotional toll this work might take on him. During one of their regular check-ins, Jamal cautions Alex about the importance of self-care when dealing with such heavy issues. As awareness grows, more veterans reach out to the group for help. Jamal finds himself increasingly busy, fielding calls at all hours from veterans in crisis. While he's glad to be making a difference, the constant exposure to others' pain begins to wear on him. One night, after talking a fellow veteran through a particularly rough patch, Jamal realizes he needs to be more proactive in addressing these issues. He decides it's time to push for systemic changes to ensure that no veteran feels as alone and hopeless as Tom did. With renewed determination, Jamal begins to plan their next steps. He knows the road ahead will be challenging, but for the first time in years, he feels like he's truly fighting for something worthwhile. As Jamal and Alex's campaign gains momentum, they encounter an unexpected obstacle. A group of homeless veterans, led by a gruff man named Frank, refuses to participate in their initiatives. Frank approaches Jamal after a meeting, his stance confrontational. "What you're doing here," Frank growls, gesturing at the posters and flyers, "it's not enough. You think a few handouts and some group therapy sessions are going to fix anything?" Jamal, taken aback by Frank's hostility, tries to explain their goals. "We're trying to raise awareness, get more resources, Frank cuts him off. Awareness? We don't need awareness. We need jobs, homes, real medical care. Your little campaign is just making people feel good about themselves without actually changing anything. This confrontation sparks a heated debate among the veterans. Some side with Frank, arguing that the campaign is too soft, too focused on feel-good stories rather than real change. Others defend Jamal and Alex's efforts, pointing out the tangible benefits they've already seen. The argument escalates, with veterans on both sides becoming increasingly agitated. Jamal finds himself in the middle, trying to mediate between the factions. He understands Frank's frustration, but also believes in the work they've been doing. Alex, witnessing the discord, feels a wave of doubt wash over him. He wonders if Frank is right, if their efforts have been misguided. The young activist begins to question everything they've done so far. As the meeting breaks up, the atmosphere is tense. Veterans leave in small groups, still arguing amongst themselves. Jamal approaches Alex, seeing the distress on his face. "Don't let this discourage you, kid," Jamal says, placing a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Frank's not wrong, but he's not entirely right either. We're making a difference, even if it's not as fast or as big as some people want." Alex nods, but his enthusiasm has clearly been dampened. "Maybe we need to do more," he muses. "Something bigger, to show we're serious about real change." Over the next few days, the rift in the veteran community grows. Frank and his supporters begin to actively campaign against Jamal and Alex's efforts, arguing that they're whitewashing the real issues. This opposition creates confusion and hesitation among potential supporters and donors. Jamal spends hours on the phone and in face-to-face meetings, trying to mend fences and find common ground. He understands the anger and frustration driving Frank's group, but he also sees the value in the work they've been doing. Meanwhile, Alex throws himself into research, looking for ways to address the concerns raised by Frank and his supporters. He starts reaching out to local politicians and business leaders, pushing for more concrete support for veterans. As the pressure mounts, Jamal and Alex realize they need to do something dramatic to unite the community and prove their commitment to real change. They begin planning a large-scale event, one that will bring together veterans, community leaders, and the public. The stakes are high. If this event fails, it could derail all their progress and fracture the veteran community even further. But if it succeeds, it could be the catalyst for the meaningful change they've been working towards. As they dive into the planning, both Jamal and Alex feel the weight of expectation on their shoulders. They know that this event could be a turning point, not just for their campaign, but for the lives of countless veterans. The planning for the big event consumes Jamal and Alex's days. They secure a large community center for the venue and begin reaching out to various stakeholders. Alex leverages his social media presence to drum up public interest, while Jamal focuses on getting veterans from all factions involved. Their efforts start to pay off. Local businesses offer sponsorships, covering costs for food and equipment. A prominent politician agrees to speak at the event, bringing the promise of media coverage. Even Frank, though still skeptical, agrees to attend with his group. As the day of the event approaches, the pressure intensifies. Jamal finds himself working around the clock, coordinating logistics and mediating disputes between different veteran groups. The stress begins to take its toll, bringing back memories of his time in combat. He starts having nightmares again but pushes through, determined to make the event a success. Alex, for his part, is a bundle of nervous energy. He's arranged for several news outlets to cover the event and has been practicing his speech obsessively. The young activist knows this could be a make-or-break moment for their campaign. On the morning of the event, Jamal arrives early at the community center. As he oversees the final preparations, he feels a mix of anticipation and dread. He watches as volunteers set up information booths, arrange chairs, and hang banners promoting veteran support services. People start arriving, a diverse crowd of veterans, families, community leaders, and curious citizens. Jamal spots Frank and his group entering, their expressions guarded but not openly hostile. He takes it as a positive sign. As the event kicks off, Alex takes the stage to deliver his opening speech. Despite his nerves, he speaks passionately about the challenges facing veterans and the community's responsibility to support them. The audience responds with enthusiasm, and Jamal feels a surge of pride for his young friend. Throughout the day, veterans share their stories, service providers offer information on available resources, and community members pledge their support. The atmosphere is one of unity and purpose, exactly what Jamal and Alex had hoped for. As the event nears its conclusion, Jamal prepares to deliver the closing remarks. He takes a deep breath, ready to address the crowd that has swelled beyond their expectations. But just as he's about to step on stage, he notices a familiar face in the audience. It's his former commander, the man who led Jamal's unit during that fateful mission years ago. Their eyes meet, and Jamal feels a rush of conflicting emotions: respect, anger, fear, and a deep, unresolved sadness. The commander nods slightly, a gesture loaded with unspoken history. Jamal realizes that this unexpected appearance could change everything. As he steps up to the microphone, he knows that the next few minutes will not only define the success of the event, but could also force him to confront the darkest parts of his past. With a mix of determination and trepidation, Jamal begins to speak, acutely aware that his words now carry more weight than ever before. As Jamal begins his speech, his former commander, Colonel Richards, moves closer to the stage. Jamal's voice falters momentarily, but he presses on, discussing the importance of community support for veterans. Midway through his address, Colonel Richards raises his hand to speak. "I have something to say," the colonel announces, his voice carrying across the room. The audience falls silent, sensing the tension. Jamal nods, allowing him to approach the microphone. Colonel Richards faces the crowd, his expression grave. What Jamal doesn't know, what he's carried as a burden for years, is the truth about the mission that cost him his son. He turns to Jamal. "It wasn't your fault, son. The intel was flawed. We sent you into an impossible situation." The revelation hits Jamal like a physical blow. For years, he's blamed himself for the deaths that occurred during that mission, including his son's. The weight of this new information threatens to overwhelm him. Seeing Jamal's distress, Alex rushes to the stage, standing supportively by his friend's side. The young activist addresses the stunned audience. "This is why we're here," he says passionately. "To support each other, to heal old wounds, to find the truth and move forward." For a moment, it seems the event might descend into chaos. But then Frank, the skeptical veteran, stands up. "I didn't believe in this campaign," he admits gruffly. "But seeing real truth and reconciliation happening right here, this is what we need." His words break the tension. Other veterans begin to share their own stories of guilt, loss, and the struggle to find peace. The event transforms into a powerful moment of collective healing. Jamal, still reeling from the colonel's revelation, finds his voice again. "We all carry burdens," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "But we don't have to carry them alone. This community, this support we're building, it's not just about housing or jobs. It's about finding a way to live with our past and build a future." As the event concludes, there's a palpable sense of change in the air. Community leaders approach Jamal and Alex, offering concrete support for their initiatives. Frank and his group pledge to work alongside them, recognizing the value of their efforts. In the days that follow, the impact of the event ripples through the community. Media coverage brings national attention to their cause. Donations pour in, allowing them to expand their support services. Most importantly, more veterans reach out, seeking help and offering to join their efforts. For Jamal, the journey is far from over. The truth about his past has opened old wounds, but it's also provided a path to healing. With Alex's unwavering support and the growing community behind him, he begins to see a future he never thought possible. The story ends with Jamal and Alex planning their next steps. As they discuss new initiatives, there's a sense of hope and possibility. They know the road ahead will be challenging, but they're ready to face it together, armed with the knowledge that their fight for justice and understanding is just beginning.